So I have a little introduction about Mark Daigle. I'm just going to introduce our speaker, and then I'm just going to give him. So it is Mark Daigle's 18th year teaching in America, 12 in Istanbul, Turkey. In addition to teaching English, he has experience directing 30 plays and directing improvisation groups in both countries. Mr. Daigle has degrees in film production, English literature, medieval history, and electronics. He likes loud music, James Joyce, and chocolate cake. So please welcome our guest, Mark Daigle.
Okay, hello. Thank you. Thank you for that. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. I should probably start off by saying this is a participation kind of heavy workshop. It's gentle participation, I like to see. I'm not going to make anybody bark like an animal or flap their hands as if they had wings. So it's a more gentle participation. This morning, I attended 2 workshops, and both of them seemed to be focused on the teacher's delivery of stories, how a teacher can best engage the students by their delivery. And I'm kind of switching things over this afternoon, and we're going to focus on methods to best help our students get into the storytelling mode and mindset of possibly being creative and telling a tale, which is at times a difficult thing to do. Okay, I want to start off with a couple neat quotes I found considering storytelling. Mark Turner, linguist, talked about narrative imagining. Story is the fundamental instrument of thought. Rational capacities depend upon it, our chief means of looking to the future, predicting, planning, and or of explaining. This is interesting because this has a little bit more of a real world, not necessarily the world that I like, but a real world application. Gary Halbert, a copywriter, said, do you know what the most often missing ingredient in a sales message? It's the sales message that doesn't tell an interesting story. Storytelling, he said, good storytelling is a vital component to a marketing campaign. And knowing a few marketers and a few people in the ad business, that is very, very true. Okay, so storytelling works across, it's just not in the literature, sector. I like this. Stories are memory aids, instruction manuals, and moral compasses. And I think that is absolutely true. If you think of a book like To Kill a Mockingbird, this definitely hits, all cylinders on that. And my last quote, I think, is my most favorite, and perhaps most philosophically astute and deep. Stories are cool. Okay. And they really are. So much of our communication is based on telling stories, whether we're aware of it or not. When I get home tomorrow night back to Istanbul, my neighbor, Nick the nerd, his name's Nick and he's a nerd, and he will knock on my door and he'll have to tell me all about his 3 probably times watching the Avengers this weekend. So I'll get the story. I'll get the whole story. It's a wonderful thing because I won't have to sit through that movie now. And when I turn on the news, I listen to satellite news. I'd like to know what's going on in my country, and they usually tell stories, news in the manner of stories. There are beginnings, there are middles, and you'd like to think occasionally there's an ending, but lately not so much. Thursday's going to be fantastic. My 11th grade class, their character analysis essay is due. And I'm going to get some good stories. It's usually going to start with the kid, the droopy shoulders. And he's going to come up to me, and he's Mr. Daigle, I got something to tell you. He's going to have empty hands, okay? So I can sit back and say, I got a story coming. Okay, so that's going to happen with the kids without the assignment, of course. So, stories, very omnipresent to us. Let's get started. Inventing a story can be difficult and it can be frustrating. Not just for students, it can be frustrating for real writers. Okay? Drama games can open the mind to possibilities and they can exercise the imagination. And that's important. My first year teaching, aside from my English composition and literature classes I taught, I was also in charge of the theater department. It's not that big of them, the jobs that anybody with any rational thought whatsoever would run screaming out of the room going, no. So I was running, we would do about 3 plays a year. And this one particular afternoon, we were doing a musical. And cast had just finished learning interesting with the song. And I'll come back and be dazzled at your creativity. Stand there. And I said, okay, let me have it. And I always remember the song. And this is exactly what they did. I can't sing, by the way. When you go into the vault tonight, you'll get a big surprise. The Capulets are dead. In the vault tonight, you won't believe your eyes. And I stood there and I thought, really? Has imagination died? Has it gone to another zone? But it had. You know, I was shocked. I said, this is them thinking out of the box. And that wasn't the only time that happened. I saw that time and time again. There's a reason why there are theater directors. Because they have to come up with the imagination. Okay, and that's what we got to do as teachers, too. Teachers are the imagination, quite often. Okay, so we occasionally have to spur them on a bit so that they have some direction, so that they could use their imagination. Theater games, most of them are improv-based. They're intended to give students opportunity to expand and stretch their skills and this is important, in a low risk, no stress, collegial situation. This is not competition. Okay, we're not judging anybody on their prowess as a great actor. Guess what? You're not going to have any great actors, probably. You know, there's a good chance most of them will be pretty horrible, but it doesn't matter. You know, they're there to learn. They're not there to impress. At the end of the session, however, students will have improved their ability to imagine themselves in new situations and to communicate appropriately, as you will do today, some of you. Some exercises focus on their ability to tell stories off the cuff, improvise. These activities are often stationary theater games, meaning the students are not required to move about very much, meaning you can do this in your classroom. Okay, you don't need a lot of room for some of these. This is driving me. Okay. You don't need a lot of room for these games. They're just going to be telling stories. With this in mind, a storytelling improv game might not be as entertaining as other dynamic games physically, but it's still an excellent way to sharpen one's imagination. I'm a loud talker. I don't want to scream into you guys' ears. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through just basic story parts. And we're going to do a game to kind of illustrate how you can use individual story parts to develop a story. Okay. Now, I'm never that interested in the story. I don't care if the story is funny. I don't care if the story is particularly entertaining. Okay. I do care if the student is able to assemble a story in the way we teach them. Does it have a beginning? Does it have conflict? Does it have some good characters? Does it have maybe a turning point if you're really lucky? And finally, does it end? Does it have a resolution? And these type of games, until they start getting some experience, the resolution is the hard part. Sometimes it's hard to finish. You get kind of lost. Okay, but that's okay. They'll learn how to end it eventually. Okay, so from now on out, we're going to do some games to illustrate, I think, setting, characters, problem, and dialogue. I couldn't find a solution one that I was real happy with. They were all too complicated. So we're going to start with a theater game with setting as a theme. Could I get 2 volunteers for this? Okay. I need an adult. I really do. I need an adult. Okay, go ahead. One more? Yeah, please. And one more? Please. Okay, please. Go ahead. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. You guys are going to work together as a team. Okay. And thank you very much. Simple games can be used to illustrate how a story develops from each individual part. These games can originate ideas in students whose imaginative gas tank may be running low. That happens. That might be happening with us. I don't know. Okay, so setting is going to be our first theme. And this is a game called Vacation Slideshow. Photographs can be used to prompt story ideas and context. In your instructions, fill in the details that the slide suggests about your exciting vacation. Don't describe what we're seeing. Tell us the story concerning what we're seeing. You should talk for no less than about 30 seconds for each slide. 30 seconds is a long time. If you tell your students to do something for a minute, just remember, a minute is a long time. It really is. You know, go easy on them. You know, start 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and work up. Okay, so I think I will let you know when the final slide is coming, okay? So let's hear your exciting story. Oh, want a microphone? Thank you. All right. Slide number 1.
Okay, so I will go first. Me and my best friends, we were planning to go on a trip together, but it was so difficult for us to get a nice deal on the plane tickets, so we had to fly with Airlines, and it was terrible. There were no hostesses in the plane, and there was no food there. We were really hungry, and it was supposed to be for 4 hours, but it took us 28 hours to get there, but it was very close. We didn't have any blankets, any cushions, anything. It was horrible. So at one point I started to think, what if I get a parachute and fly down the plane? But I couldn't do that because they wouldn't open the doors for me. It was a horrible experience, and ever since I've never got on a plane again.
Okay. All right, so our next slide.
As the plane took off, she started to work on her computer, remembering how long she delayed starting her book, composed of her past memories, with the looking at the scarlet sky. She remembered the days she shared with her roommate in the years past. she didn't know how to start the story, feeling the pain in her heart. She
Okay.
feeling the pain in her heart. She the vision of her friend appeared in front of her eyes. 25 seconds.
You can stop. Okay. All right. Our next picture for your vacation.
After a 28-hour plane flight, we were finally landed in Australia. We were very excited because we would finally be able to see giraffes. Giraffes have been my favorite animals ever since I was a child. And when I finally saw one, I was so excited. I ran up and I hugged one of them, and the giraffe licked my hair, and I just had my hair blow dried, and he destroyed it. And actually, while it was licking my hair, he ripped some of my hair off. And then, what are those animals?
Antelopes.
Antelopes saw me hugging giraffes. I thought they wanted me to hug them too. They started running towards me, but I was so freaking afraid of them. I ran away. It was very disappointing for me, but I was able to hug a giraffe.
Okay. Next.
For me?
Mm-hmm.
When she was continuing her book, suddenly the plane shook. It was a sudden turbulence. She was terrified. She didn't know what to do, and finally she heard the announcement saying just browse. And unfortunately the plane was falling down. As they crash landed, she heard screaming people and found herself in the mud. Trying to escape from the mud, she realized that there was no one around, and finally she managed to come out of the mud without any help.
Next.
This was for me. After the safari, I found myself starving. So we went down to this restaurant, which was supposed to be very famous around the stay, and I ordered some local food, but I didn't know what it actually consisted of. I tasted it, and it was the best meal that I've ever had. And after I finished it completely, I wondered about it and asked the waitress, what is in it, and the waitress told me this was a local dish that was made of antelope hair, giraffe ears, and elephant trunks. So apparently they eat it there. I was disgusted, but I couldn't forget the taste I had. It was the best meal, but I would never do it again.
Okay.
As she survived, the worst point was to be able to reach the hospital. When she was suffering from loneliness in the middle of the jungle, she suddenly heard a helicopter. The helicopter landed and collected her and took her to the emergency immediately. It was a nice coincidence that she saw the hero of the book in the emergency room, as if he was waiting for her after so many years.
Wow.
Wow. And
Okay, so my amazing vacation was finally over, but after the 28-hour plane flight, I didn't want to get on a plane again, so I took my friends to the airport and I watched them as the plane took off and went into the sky. After they got on the plane, I found a bike and decided to return Turkey with my bike from Australia. I know it was going to be difficult. I had to take the boat and everything, but I promised that I wouldn't ever get on a plane again. I knew that they would be there sooner, but I was able to reach Turkey in 4 months with my bike.
Thank you very much, both of you. There you go. Thank you. Okay. All right. It's more exciting than the last vacation I had. Okay. All right. So that was dealing with the idea of setting. We got ourselves a nice story out of that. Excuse me, guys. I'm getting over a cold. Now we're going to talk about characters. Obviously, characters, we build stories around characters, so we're going to do that today. And characters, who are they? What do they do? What do they want? Are the big questions we often study about characters. And, you know, the character can be used to spur the development of the story. What do they do is often a defining figment or defining feature about what a character does and how they act and what they want. Okay, so I could use as many volunteers as I want. 3, maybe 3 or 4 or whatever. You're going to, let me tell you what you're going to do, okay? You're going to choose a job title. You're going to tell me a minute story about that character's most exciting experience. I want a good story. And based to a certain degree on your title. Who are you? What do you do? Okay. I'm not afraid. I'll pick one. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. You just did all the heavy lifting. Come on down. Anybody? What did I pick? Ooh. There you go. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. You don't need to come down here. Okay. Okay. Things were designed not for kids. Okay. Want me to go first? Who wants to go first? I'm getting a cross look from you. You want me to go first? Okay. I picked chef. Everybody knows what a chef is. On January 31st, 1999, the very last day of the last, they call it the millennium. Okay, we're having a big, big party at my Washington, D.C. restaurant. The President of the United States was going to show up to help celebrate and bring in the new year. Okay, everything was set, everything was perfect. I had the best staff, I had the best menu. Everything was fantastic until the electricity went out and the food went bad. The CIA panicked. They accidentally shot my assistant cook. Senators were saying that it was a communist plot and that the world was ending as predicted with K2. And that's my story as a chef. Okay? Okay. What did you pick?
Cowboy.
Cowboy.
Yeah.
Ah. Okay. So you have a 1-minute story for us.
Okay, I was a really famous cowboy in my hometown, Samsun. And let's say there was a girl who needs to be survived from a thief. She was a rich girl. She had a lot of money in her bag. And suddenly my phone rang. Yes, I was, well, in the 21st century is so interesting to be a cowboy in my hometown still, because everybody is so modernist and everything is so, like, the buildings are really popular and really luxury everywhere. And, but I was stuck with my tradition, comes from the past. So I decided to open my phone and to save that girl. After that, I went to that place. Let's say it's a small hometown in my basic, let's say, city. And suddenly, I just take out my gun and I just threaten the thief to leave the bag to her back. And then he was like, "So okay, so don't shoot me. I can live a bit. So don't do this again. I'm so scared of you. You're the best cowboy in this hometown." So, and I said, "Okay, so don't do it again. If you do that again, so I'm going to shoot you down for the next time. So I'm not going to survive. You're not going to be survived." So this is my story.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I don't know
Your-
how to juggle with this, but I'm gonna take care of the second part. It's a dog trainer, so I'm gonna
Okay.
get dog trainer.
They couldn't hear.
Dog trainer.
Attack dog trader.
Well, I was a famous dog psychologist, and I had a famous pet hotel. And suddenly there was a very big earthquake. It was like end of 90s. So they called me. They said, "Well, you're the only famous and so sensitive dog psychologist. We'll give you one night. You got to train these dogs." And I go, "Well, why did you choose me?" "Because the dogs are not from Turkey. Where do they come from? Dogs are coming from America." So they should understand English, so maybe bilinguals. "Oh, well, I wish they were bilinguals. They only spoke English." So I had no terminology. I didn't know the terms. And I only had one night. Well, they said, "You only have one night, and you got to train them and learn all those terms so that they can, be trained to find those injured people and other things down because of the earthquake." Well, first I quickly had the dogs transferred to a pet hotel. They served a nice meal, and I had a big large screen TV. I was reading the terms that I need to train them, and then I'm just practicing them with the dogs. All of a sudden, power was off. Gee, what to do? It was so dark. I was in the middle of my training.
1 minute.
Oh, well, there was a nightmare. Power is back.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Listen, it's hard to end these things. Got one more for us. What is your job?
Actually, my job is being astronaut, but I couldn't invent anything now.
Okay.
It's a cool job, but okay, I can say something. It's not actually a story. After watch the movies, this Kubrick's famous movie about space, I decided to be an astronaut, and I tried hard. Then I became an astronaut. It's a very cool job for me, but it's I didn't know what it actually meant for me because I always worked on the table. I haven't had an opportunity to go space, and one day they say, "Okay, this is the first time you will go to space." And I was very excited. Then I wore my costumes, and we all prepared for days. And after going to the shuttle, I was so excited and I fainted. I don't remember anything then.
Okay. Thank you. Did you all find that difficult? Okay. Why? To come to an ending? Yes. Could be. Could be. It also depends. I made all the jobs unusual. I made them kind of strange to a certain degree. I probably had the most normal one. Okay. Kids will have a tendency when they have to do story activities, they have a tendency to make them way more complicated than they need to be. That they lose sight of the basic conflict. what's the conflict? Make it simple. Boy wants to get to the movies. Boy runs out of gas. And the obstacles of getting the gas. And it's something simple. Okay? Don't make it trying to break the genetic code of something, or curing cancer, or winning the World Cup in a paragraph. Okay? And they will have a tendency to make things way too complicated. So you want to pare everything down. I try to make these activities relatively simplistic so that they can't get too complicated. At least that's the idea. Okay, all right. Okay, here's a problem. Obviously, good stories have good problems. I'm going to need 3 people for this one. Sometimes the problem itself can suggest other characters and story ideas. Obviously, what are you trying to do? Identify a problem and solve the problem. And that's your story. Okay? Identifying it is the easy part. Volunteer, we're going to play bad, worse, worst. I need someone to be bad. Who's feeling bad today? Someone who hasn't gone yet? Someone who's feeling bad? No one? If I don't get any volunteers, guys, this is done. Okay. Okay, you're feeling bad. Okay. Your problem. You're going to be introduced to participants. All will relate their story in relation to it. Each story should be more terrible in content than the last. Short stories should last, 45 seconds to 45 to 60 seconds. Okay, so what is your problem? Easy. A visit to the dentist. Okay, so your visit to the dentist is going to be bad.
Okay, well, the other day, actually this is a true story. I had to get a cavity filled, and in the morning, usually going to the dentist is not hard for me. I'm not scared of the dentist. But I had breakfast, and then I exercised, and then I went to the dentist, and it was a little after 1. And I hadn't eaten anything, and he came in, and he numbed my gum, and then later he came in and gave me my shot. And as soon as he gave me the shot, he looked at me and said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "My heart's beating a little fast." And he immediately dropped the chair back, so I almost fell backwards, and because I almost fainted from having that shot.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay. Now, I need a worst. Can someone give me a worse story than that? Okay.
Well, some years ago, I
Need to speak up and...
some years ago, I had one treatment in Boston. It was a very good, it was a really good dentist, but as I was getting ready for that, the doctor told me that, well, we had to numb you, but you have a problem on your file. I said, what? It says you don't get numb. We can't give you shots. I said, what the heck? You won't give me a shot? Yeah, we had to do it live. I said, what? Is that right? I mean, it can't be true. He said, yes. So 2 assistants held my hands on the right, on the left, opened my mouth, and they started giving me the surgery. It was all like, I was like in a scary movie. And they did it.
Okay. Thank you.
I can never forget that pain.
That's pretty bad. Okay. Who can beat that? Now, these don't have to be true stories, folks. This is storytelling. Who can give me the worst story in dentistry ever that they can think of? Worst. Worst. Okay.
So, I had some pretty mild tooth pain at work. It was driving me a bit crazy. I was getting very irritated at people, so I decided to go to the dentist that night. And it was a dentist I'd never been to before. and he was quite a small-framed character, and didn't seem physically very strong. And it was one of my bigger teeth at the back. So he looked at the tooth and found it was too rotten to save. So he gave me the choice to pull it out. So I decided to pull it out. So not being a very strong, not being a very big man, he's got his dentist pliers and he's wrenching away at my jaw. It's the bottom tooth. And he's going around and around and around, and the tooth's not coming out. So the only solution was to pull out the drill and drill down many holes into the teeth to break it into small parts.
Okay.
And then grab the pliers again and pull it around and around and rip out those little pieces one by one as I'm lying terrified in the chair.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, that's a true story.
Okay. I don't even think I'm going to go home and brush my teeth tonight, to tell you the truth. Okay, so, a problem. Get creative with the problem, see if we can out-problem each other. Kids actually like that. I use that a bit on, those kind of Friday afternoons when they don't want to do much of anything. And they do get very competitive about beating each other's. Oh, it could be a visit to the doctor. They love being the worst pickup artist in history. I'm bad, but no, I'm worse than you. That's their favorite. Okay. Dialogue. I got 10 minutes. I set my alarm clock. Oh, that's yours? No, that's mine. I know that sound. I hear it every day at 6 o'clock. Okay, and this will be our last game, too. We'll be good. Unrehearsed conversation can inspire storytelling skills and promote real language usage. So I kind of got into that last year when I gave a similar presentation. So we're just going to kind of make up some silly dialogues and see if we can guide it along in a story way, which is not going to be easy. Okay, I need a volunteer. Anybody want to work with me? Come on. It's not like drilling teeth, guys. Okay. Yeah, I'll work with you. Okay. We're going to have a dialogue, a conversation. I start my dialogue with fortunately, and you start with unfortunately. And we can see if we can work this through on a story. This is challenging. Because obviously you're going to be causing the conflict. Okay.
I will try my best, but I'm a woman, so that won't be difficult.
Oh, that's all right. Oh, okay. Does somebody want to give us a good dramatic location? Good dramatic location? Anybody? None? The jungle. Okay. Fortunately, I have enough malaria pills for both of us.
Unfortunately, I never take any pills because I live naturally.
Well, fortunately, it just looked like my chances of surviving this experience have just improved immeasurably.
Unfortunately, I have some pretty sharp objects with me, so I wouldn't be too sure about that.
Fortunately, I have a gun.
Unfortunately, I have all the bullets with me, not in your bag.
Well, fortunately, I love you very much, and I would never want anything bad to happen to you anyhow. I'm going to give you my tickets, my guns, my medicine, so that you can get home safely.
Unfortunately, that might not be possible because I have a boyfriend other than you.
Oh, man, that's a tragic story. You can go home to her boyfriend. I'm going to die of malaria. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. All right. These are some books that these two books I have used for years. The one on the right I've used ever since I became a teacher. I've been using it for almost 20 years. Theater games for young performers. The one on the left is called Improvisation Starters. It is a gold mine of just things and lines, activities, poses to start story ideas and work and conversations between students. I highly recommend both of them if you're interested in introducing more theater activities or improv into your lessons. These two are invaluable, really. Here's another one, and this is great. It's free. This is on the internet, called the Improv Encyclopedia, and there are literally hundreds of games, of activities that you can use. The descriptions are pretty good. They pretty much tell you exactly what you're going to have to do and how you're going to have to prepare. All the games are also put into categories. So if you like something dialogue-based, something story-based, or whatever, performance-based, you can go to the categories and take a look at the games. They're fantastic. And I'm talking all age groups. I teach 11 and 12, but a lot of these games can easily, and actually a lot of them are constructed for primary school kids and such. Okay. I would say if you go to this, it's improvencyclopedia.com, and I would say if you go to this, if you're reading a description of the game and you don't really understand it first off, go to another game. They should be that. If you can't understand it, chances are the kids aren't going to really get the point either, and just run away. Okay. Most of these games basically take very little preparation. Very little. Sometimes a piece of paper, a bowl, a ball. They're very, very simple. So that's a great site. And teachers are putting new games on there all the time. And it's free. Okay. If you have tried to introduce, excuse me, performance type of activities in your classrooms and it has just sunk, it hasn't worked, you would like to do it again, but you want it to be effective and you have questions, feel free to get in contact with me. I'm pretty good at this stuff. At this point, I did a lot of work with this back in the States, and I put some improv groups together when I was teaching at ANCA, and the kids really enjoyed it a lot. And there are some real basic rules that you need to know. And if you get them, it's going to work. If you don't get them, it's not. So I've been more than happy to help you out if you're trying to do some of this stuff and it's not working. If it does work, fantastic. You don't need me. Okay. And thanks for coming today, and everybody, thanks for participating. I appreciate it. Okay.